Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can everyone hear me? Rick, can you hear me in the back there? Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me back there, Rick? Okay. Rick Spalding is, I want to thank him from the get-go. He's the audio and video man, and if I either make a mistake or I'm too loud or too soft, he will help correct that. I want to welcome everyone here for Candidates Forum, Candidates Night for the Los Banos Unified School District Board of Trustees Candidates Forum. And my name is John Spivak. I have moderated forums in the past. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I consider it an honor to be among these great candidates. I do want to thank everyone for being here, not only those of you who are here in person here in City Hall, but those of you who are watching on television. And I hope this is an opportunity to learn a lot about our candidates. I want to begin by thanking the co-sponsors for this evening. First of all, the Merced County League of Women Voters and the Los Banos Enterprise. Those are our two big sponsors. I do want to thank the City of Los Banos for providing the space and equipment to do this and to be able to broadcast this to everyone who is interested and has a TV set and is tuning in to Comcast. I'm going to explain what the screeners do in a little bit, but I want to thank the screeners who are in the back room. They will be screening questions that are submitted. And from the League of Women Voters, we have Mary Hoffman, President of the League of Women Voters of Merced County, and members of the League, Lisa Maples, Mary Ellis, and Carolyn Vera, as well as Los Banos representatives Dick and Lynette Jerby. Our timer here is Rachel Hadley. I want to thank her in advance, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how timing will work later on. And again, I want to thank Rick Spalding for being in the back there to help with the audio and video. Also, we have the students of teacher April Lada's AP Economics class who are here. Can you raise your hand? I know. Very good. So there's quite a few. And they will be distributing index cards and picking them up. And I'll explain a little bit more how that works. So a big thanks to many, many people. Something new this year that we haven't had in the past is that viewers at home can submit questions, either by submitting an email at the email address at the bottom of your screen or by calling the phone number at the bottom of the screen. Your question will be recorded and then submitted to the League for screening. Tonight we have there are 3 contested elections in District 1, 3, and 7, trustee area boundaries 1, 3, and 7. And we have, and there are 2 candidates for each area. I'm going to introduce them just by name in a second and by district, but I want to alert everybody in the audience here that the audience may not demonstrate or show support or oppositions to the candidates, or, I'm reading this verbatim, they will be escorted out. I'm not sure who your escort will be, but I don't anticipate that happening. So as I look in the audience, I see a lot of very calm, responsible people who won't be jumping up and shouting. All candidates will be thanked at the end of the evening. That'll be your opportunity to stand up, applaud, hoot, holler, whatever you would like to do. Remembering this is not a political rally, but a candidates forum. So, the introduction of the candidates. On my right, all the way to my right, is Dennis Arrayes from District 1. He is the incumbent. And you see an empty seat next to him. That would have been the seat of Frederick Todd, who is also a candidate for District 1. But I received this note just before the meeting to Jean Lieb of the Enterprise and the Women's League of Voters. I just want to thank you for the invitation to participate in the Los Banos Board Forum on September 30th. Unfortunately, I have an unexpected conflict in my schedule and with my family. Therefore, I will be unable to attend. If anyone has any questions or would like to contact me, please call me. Respectfully submitted, Frederick Todd. So one of our candidates will not be here tonight because of an unexpected emergency. Also to my right and to your left as you're watching me, in District 3 is Andre Soares, the incumbent, and Marlene Smith, both running for District 3. To my left, your right, District 7, John Mueller, the incumbent, and also running Ruben Santos. And I have checked with all the candidates as we talk and rotate and do everything else. They are okay with me referring to them by their first names, which helps me out, makes things a little more informal. Actually, Los Banos is still a small town. A lot of us know each other by first names, which is good. So, I'd like to review the procedures, the format, and the rules. This comes from the League of Women Voters themselves. All candidates participate as part of a single panel. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to each question. The same question is asked to all candidates. Questions are asked in an order determined by the moderator. And the order is going to be, we'll just start with District 1. And then every time a new question is coming, somebody new among the candidates will answer the first, be the first person to answer the question. We'll keep that rotation. So as we go through the question, we'll be rotating who answers first. Each candidate's response, as well as the closing statements, are timed. The league timer will hold up, and I'll demonstrate this in just a second. The league timer will hold up some cards. We'll explain that in a little bit. Questions that are asked are those that are submitted by the audience, both here and home, and they are screened by the League of Women Voters, and this is a standard operation for any forum that the League of Women Voters run and help participate, co-sponsor. Questions are screened to eliminate those that are unclear, inappropriate to the office, or of a personal or abusive nature. We may run out of time before all screened questions are asked because we have 2 hours to do all of this, including the closing statements. So all remaining questions that aren't asked remain with the League of Women Voters and are shredded. Candidates are not given an opportunity for rebuttal or follow-up response. A candidate may use his or her time during the 2-minute closing statement to include a follow-up response. And I just want to let you know, around 8:30, a little past 8:30, will be the last round of questions, so we get through that question and have plenty of time for the closing statements, and so we're done by 9 o'clock. When we get to the closing statements, they will be drawn by lot. And see, we see this in operation. I'm getting cards that will be asked of the candidates from students in Mrs. Lada's class. Look at the cards are coming in. But notice they don't come to me directly. They go into the screening room, and then they come back out for me. Now, just before we start, I'd like to go over the timing, because you have 60 seconds for each question. Rachel's here. We're going to do a little bit of a quick dress rehearsal. So when you start answering your question, candidate, Rachel will show the 1-minute card. Then at 30 seconds, she will show the 30-second card. At 15 seconds, excuse me, at 10 seconds, she will show the 10-second card, which is kind of the wrap-up card. Then at 60 seconds exactly, she'll say stop. And when she says stop, the only thing you'll be able to do is finish the sentence that you have. You can't go on to another thought. Yes, Rachel?
If I can just illustrate just a little bit, I'll show you the stop card. You'll be allowed to finish your sentence. If you carry on, then I'll stand up and I'll make a rubber.
And Rachel's very good. She'll stand up and she'll say stop. And I just met Rachel today, but I don't think I would mess with her anyway. So anyway, does that make sense to all of you? All right. I think we are ready to begin. Are there any questions from anybody here among the candidates? Okay. I hope I've covered everything. And the first person to answer the first question, we'll just start with District 1. And it would have been alphabetically, but since Dennis is the only person here from District 1, that makes it even easier. So, oh, yes, Ruben, yes. Hold on. Let me get your microphone on. I got to get this.
Oh, right. That's what I was going to ask. I've never used this one, so automatically you'll turn it on.
That's the theory.
Okay.
But this is where I'm counting on everybody up here. If I forget, and if I don't, and the red light doesn't go on, that means, and just say Mike or something, Rick is also going to help me. But if your mic isn't on or whatever, somebody, you all can say, Mike, that's my...
Thank you, sir.
Okay. And I really should turn off my mic when somebody else is talking, which I just did not do that time. So... See, that was a demonstration. I purposely turned off my mic so Rick could show you how this works. Thank you, Rick. Okay, here we go. First question, and we'll start with Dennis, and then we'll go around this way. The second question, we'll start with Andre, and so forth. We'll keep rotating like that. First question. Why do you want to serve on the Board of Education?
I've been on the board for 16 years now.
Mike. Oh, boys.
I took myself on already.
Thank you.
I've been on the board 16 years now, and when I got in place, the superintendent that was there, it was pretty much a once-a-month meeting. On Thursdays we met. Once that superintendent left, we hired Paul Aldretti. And with Paul Aldretti, we have weekly updates so we know what's going on in the district. We organize some subcommittees, facilities, finance, and and curriculum. And what we did with those committees was we spent, what we did with those committees was moving forward as we use the money to build schools for the public that is out there that helped us pass bond measures. We make sure that everything is done on time and within budget. We keep up with the curriculum in the school district. We make sure our employees are treated fairly, and we make sure that the kids are going to be ready for the 21st century with technology on what they need to compete in the marketplace.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll turn to Andre. By the way, at any point, if any of the candidates want me to repeat the question, I would be glad to.
The reason I'm running for the board is I've been on the board also for 16 years, and I guess at my core I really have a passion for doing what's right or what's good for children. I'm a registered nurse. I've worked for Children's Hospital Central California for 26 years. 20 of those years have been in management. I find that my skills, the skills that I've been equipped with, really prepare me best to organize systems and put people in place to provide an environment where good things can happen. I do that in my work life at Children's Hospital, and I also do it in my role as a board member. I really feel it's where my skills can contribute most beneficially for the entire community and most particularly for the children.
Marlene.
Okay. My passion is to serve the district as a citizen. I have 2 children that's gone to the Los Banos School District, and we have had very good success with the school district. And I feel that being on the school board is one of the largest ways that you can contribute to the community and to the welfare of the children. I have worked with children in the Los Banos area since I've lived here since 1991. I work over at Memorial Hospital Los Banos, and I also work at the local Merced College, and I work with young people often. And my goal is to support them through education in the best way that I know how. I also teach education over at Memorial Hospital Los Banos to community members. I do a lot of personal in-home education, a lot of diabetes education. I really get out into the community, and I want to make an impact on the children in this city to prepare them for secondary education and or college.
John.
4 years ago, when I decided to run for the board, I saw an opportunity to make changes in this district. I'm a strong believer that you can't complain about how something is ran, things that don't get changed in a district unless you're willing to take your time and put into it. And I continue to want to put my time into this district. That's why I want to continue on this board. Being a general contractor and doing what I do, and with my background with development, I think that in the next 4 years I'd have a lot of opportunities to help save this district money and steer it in the right direction with development and building new schools and the welfare and the safety of kids. There's 16% of our district at the junior high level that can benefit from having a contractor and getting things moved forward on these projects, and I really want to be a part of it.
Ruben.
You asked the question, why does one want to go on the school board? And that's a good question in that I'm sure it's a very, very difficult job when you have so many things that are required of you. And one of those things that I bring on board is my 34 years of teaching experience at the junior high level. And I think that with that classroom experience, I need to come on board because in the 5 years that I've lived here, I have been coming to these board meetings, and what I have observed has told me that I need to be here. And I see what happens at the schools, and I'm not going to go into detail. The schools are good, don't take me wrong, but at the same time, I think I can make a change. So let's get a new board on board. Thank you.
The next question, we'll start with Andre next to answer first. What do you think are the 3 most important issues facing the school district?
The 3 most important issues facing the school district, I would say, not in any particular order at this point, but we have a crisis in the physical plant of the junior high school right now. We have more children there than should be there, and we really need to move forward and make the really tough decisions of building a school in the political environment, unfortunately, where the state of California is not owning up to their responsibility of providing our funds. So that's going to be a tough decision. Another issue facing the district that's very important is our implementation of Common Core curriculum and all that that brings, and the integration of technology to test and teach the children how to move forward with that. And the third, I would say, would be just student achievement in general. It's always primarily on our mind.
Marlene.
Okay. I think one of the number 1 concerns of the school board or the district should be hiring and maintaining qualified teachers. I would like to see the school board seek professionals into the schools that we feed into, such as Fresno State, San Jose State, Stanislaus, and maybe Merced, to seek out qualified teachers to teach in the schools in Los Banos. I think another very important area is the structure of the infrastructure of the schools. I think the schools need some help in planning infrastructure. The schools are very crowded. The junior high looks like there's a proposal now. It might not be up to what the city's actually looking for, but it absolutely needs to be something done in the area of building a new school. I think that the budget is something to look at too. To build a school is very expensive. I think we need to clear the budget over at Mercy Springs before we can look into building a school, and hopefully we can get that done with some reorganization and some redistribution of funds.
John.
The three most important things that I see the district running into in the next few years is, 1, the junior high. I already mentioned 16% of our kids in the district aren't being taught at a level with 40 kids in each classroom. That brings me to the next thing, is the quality of the education and the product that gets put out. This is a business. We have a $74 million budget. We have more employees than anybody in town, and at the end of the day, we have a product, and that product is well-educated children. We need to follow that and make sure that that's continued. Financially, we've been in a good place, but with this new school and the things that are going to be hitting us in the near future, we need to make sure that we're going to stay fiscally sound. That is going to be a challenge, and that's something that I'm definitely willing to take on.
Ruben.
Yes, the 3 things that I think, and I think there's more than 3, but I'll name these 3. Number 1 is, for me, is my priority is the children. We have to consider the children. That's why we're here. We're here for them, whether it's the junior high that's overcrowded, or whether it's, and we just got the after-school sports at the junior high, but number 1 is our children. Number 2, I believe, is still fiscal responsibility. I feel that you can't just go out and do things. Not that our past board has, but I know that they are in the process of mentioning the things about the junior high, but if they're going to use up money to put us into bankruptcy, then we really have a problem. As it is already, I believe we're spending a lot of money on loans that we're paying off. And number three, I believe, is teacher development. You know, we have this new Common Core thing, and oh, thank you. But
Dennis.
Okay, it's pretty much all been said now. Everybody knows what we have going on at the junior high. That's a really big concern for all of us up here on the school board. So identifying funding from the state that has no bond money so that we can build the schools that we need is very important. But within our budget, I believe with our general fund, we can identify money moving forward and be proactive so that we can cover some of these costs, and we can set this money in funds that are, you can set this money up in a fund that they would call 17, 25, or 40, which means you can put money there, you can earmark it for construction, and yet if you need it to make your budget balance, or you need it for something that was unforeseen at the time, you can move it out of those funds, and it doesn't throw up red flags for the state. That is very, very important as we move forward. As far as our employees, we just signed a 3-year contract with the employees, so I think it's very, very well understood that we're getting along with our bargaining groups just fine, so we're moving forward, and the curriculum for the children so that, again, they can compete when they get out there into college and into the workplace is very important.
The next question, and our first person to answer will be Marlene. Do you think there should be term limits on board members?
I absolutely do. I believe that there should be term limits to each position on the board. I think new members can bring in new ideas, new energy, new curriculum, new information. I think when you have a board member that sits for years and years and years, it very infrequently will bring in new ideas, new members. As the city grows and develops, it would be nice to see it more diverse, diverse across the board. I think it would be beneficial if the students could see, or the kids could see, someone on the board that they can maybe relate to. I think it would be nice to rotate people through over a couple-year period.
John.
Term limits are great when you have candidates that are worthy to hold the seat. Not only that, but at the end of the day, to sit on this board, I think you need to have a background in business. You need to have a background in helping children, and be a part of the community and know what the community wants, and have your ear to the ground and be able to talk to anybody in the community and have those people talk to you openly about anything that they need to do. A term limit on a board member doesn't necessarily matter. That's why we have elections. That's what elections are for. At the end of the day, the city speaks for itself. The people will elect the person that they want. If there's no term limit, it's fine. If the person gets elected again, then that's what the public wanted. Is that person in that seat? And that's what I believe.
Ruben.
I do believe that there needs to be some termination to your position here. Now, I don't know the actual number, do we leave a person in here for 4 years, 6 years? But I feel that when you leave a person here for many years, I hate to say it, but they say that, that after 3 days, fish stinks, whatever. But no, it's the idea that we need new ideas, new blood, so that we can help the children, because what was happening 16 years ago is not necessarily happening now. Things change, and if we don't expect new people to come in if we're not going to allow new people to come in with new ideas, then we're making the board even stagnant.
Dennis.
As far as term limits, I'll go back to 16 years ago, because it was Andre and myself were the only two on the board at that time. And what we've accomplished to this point was we've put mitigation agreements together for our community, for our public. We are homegrown people, and those mitigation agreements far exceed level 2 monies that come in for construction. So history is a very important part in any learning facility, high school, junior high, whatever, and you will lose a whole bunch of history. We also started the 2x3, which means we work with the city. So we know which projects are coming into town, we know what developments are coming into town, we meet once a month, and we do that. There will be a whole lot of history that is lost, and remember, if you're born and raised here, you have a commitment to the community, and why would you not, if you have the time, why would you prevent somebody from that, from performing and staying up to date? We have a goal-setting day, and goal-setting day and a vision day that we do with our superintendent and staff at the district office.
Andre.
I'm not necessarily opposed to term limits for board members. I don't know that, based on my experience with the change in elections, the fresh faces that our election system provides anyway, I don't know that I would necessarily propose that myself. If there was something proposed, I would like probably something to be where certain seats rotated at different intervals. Perhaps District 1 year was elected for a 2-year term, District 3 was elected to a 4-year term, or something, so that there was always some historian, some legacy, someone who has the history of the political activities and decisions that were made, so that that is always present. Because the management changes, the superintendent can change, it's just too difficult to promote long-term change if the board is continually changing.
The next question, and the first person to answer at this time will be John. One of the board goals is to attract and retain quality teachers. How do we achieve this goal?
Dennis hit on it earlier. We've already gone with our bargaining groups and put out a 3-year negotiated term with our teachers. Now moving forward from here, when we go out to recruit new teachers and retain them, other districts don't have that. Our pay scale says a lot for our area. If you go around and look at other districts, our pay scale is higher than other districts around us. And at the end of the day, that's what brings our teachers to us and retains them. We go out and recruit good teachers. Those teachers, once they get here and they have a good wage and they're in a city that they like, with a principal that they like, and everybody has a good working relationship, and our schools are moving in a cohesive manner, and everybody's happy and doing what they should be doing, at the end of the day, those teachers want to be long-term teachers in our district, and they stay here because of the wages that they have and the small-town feeling that Los Banos still has.
Ruben.
Repeat the question, please.
Sure. Well, now I got to put on my microphone. One of the board goals is to attract and retain quality teachers. How do we achieve this goal?
Well, we need to hire teachers, as someone said, that they're the best for that particular job. That's kind of like, how do you define the best? Who's defining that word? And what has bothered me has been the comment that this school district went as far as Oregon to recruit teachers. They sent the group out, all the way out there, to recruit teachers. What's wrong with Fresno State? What's wrong with Stanislaus? What's wrong with the schools where our own children that are in these schools are now attending? Why do we bypass them and go that far? There has to be a reason for that. Thank you.
Yes.
We don't bypass any opportunities to hire good employees. When we did go to Washington and go to Oregon, those were main street fairs for teacher recruitment at that time, and that's why that was done. How we're going to retain teachers in this district, Johnny alluded to it already. They're being paid a fair salary with their benefits, but we also do a lot of collaboration time and a lot of training for our employees. And the really good teachers that we have here in our district, and there's most of them are, pretty much all of them are, because of the way we select them, those teachers participate in the training. We actually have groups of teachers, if you don't know, that are actually drawing up curriculum for the Common Core standards right now that we're going to be moving into. They are doing that. We are in the forefront here at Los Banos Unified School District actually drawing up curriculum that we will be using to educate our kids moving forward.
Great.
I think that we attract and retain good teachers in our district by many things that have already been said. I believe we pay fairly our employees, we treat them fairly, we do our very best to promote positive work environment so it's a place the teachers and actually all the employees of the district want to be, because that environment that we create for the teachers translates into a positive environment where our kids can learn. I think that when we're looking for teachers, we are leaving our current environment sometimes perhaps to get that diversity that many of you up here are talking about, and is so important for our students. So I think that we work really hard to attract and retain our teachers, and to be quite frank, commonly it is the community of Los Banos and what our city has that keeps them or promotes their departure from our community. It's just sometimes not their fit.
Marlene.
Okay. Well, it sounds like salary is already discussed, and it sounds like it's comparative to other cities throughout California. I was thinking earlier today about this question when I was thinking about this at home, and I think that if they brought in teachers that were credentialed in the subject that they're taught to teach, that would could be a mainstay to keep them there. And also I thought that if they offered, like some cities do, low-cost loans or low-interest rate loans, home loans to teachers to come into the city, purchase a home, and hopefully make this their home, then I love the idea of seeking out Fresno State, San Jose State, and Stanislaus for professionals to teach in this field. And I love it because my daughter is entering liberal studies at Stanislaus.
The next question, the first person to answer it this time will be Ruben. With overcrowding continuing to be an issue and no state construction dollars on the horizon, do you see yourself, if elected, asking the public to pass another school bond during your term?
Being out there with sales taxes and everything else, when you buy an object and the object almost doubles, I don't know about a bond issue that people are going to accept. I still have not really sat down, but I think that with a group of us, we can brainstorm to come up with ideas as to where that money is going to come from. Definitely we need that junior high school, but not at, again, fiscal destruction. So yes, I agree that we need to do that. It's just a matter of getting our heads together and saying how we can. And one of the ideas that I thought is that, you know, I mean, we have like 600 students that are over at the junior, overloaded at the junior high. Well, there's different things. I mean, it just crossed my mind. Well, how about West Side? It used to be a high school, whatever. Put those 600 in there. Put the elementary. And
We're already working on those scenarios right now. We will have a update at our October board meeting that says how much that junior high is going to cost. We are also looking at bans and bonds, not to put out to the general public, but something that we can do in-house with somewhere around $400,000 or $500,000 a year off our general fund that would go to paying that back, so it would cost the public no extra money. Now, what you need to remember is we have built Lorena Velasco Elementary School on time, under budget. We just built Mercy Springs Elementary School with no state matching money. We built Pacheco High School without going over budget. And we also have the land secured for the next grammar school and the present junior high already paid for without matching funds from the state. So when the state pays us back the money they actually owe us, it's going to be right now over $10 million. So when they pay us back the money they owe us and give us money for the next junior high, we will then have enough money to completely build it out without addressing our general fund.
Andre.
The question was, would I anticipate going to the public for a bond in the next term?
Right. I'll repeat the question as I said I would. With overcrowding continuing to be an issue and no state construction dollars on the horizon, do you see yourself, if elected, asking the public to pass another school bond during your term?
I would say I don't anticipate asking the public to do that in my term. It's been an option. We've tossed it around because when the state became clear the state wasn't going to give us their portion of the money, and I just could not, in good faith, go to the public again and say, you need to pay again, because the fact is, this community has paid. You are paying currently your portion. The developers are paying their portion and more, based on the mitigation agreements that were negotiated many years ago. And unfortunately, it's the state that is not paying their portion. And to be quite frank, I'm surprised that we haven't heard more from the development community, who is paying their fair share while the government stopped the money that they said they were going to pay. So I think we're going to have to do some creative things, but in my term, I don't anticipate going to the public for another bond. Doesn't mean I won't. Sometimes you have to make those tough decisions, but I'm not willing to do that as I sit here right now.
Marlene.
You know, I would be interested in knowing if there's any way that the cost can be cut in the current budget. I'm wondering about some smart spending, if the money could be spent in other areas. I understand that that we have quite a bit of a debt ratio right now to build the school, which is quite dissatisfying. I'd like to know if there's a way to find money in other areas before they went to the public to impose a bond for the taxpayers.
John.
Sitting here right now, I don't see a need to go to the public for a bond in the next 4 years. As I sit here right now, if that need were to arise, would I? You bet you. If we absolutely had to, I would go to the public and say, this is what we need. This is what we need for our kids, if that's what we had to do. As I sit here right now, I have gone and I have sat down and I have looked at the budget and I have looked at the different ways we can fund the school. LCAP, the way our school is funded from the state now, our budget is going to be going up in the next 3 years. We've anticipated that it's going to be going up. As it goes up, we will be able to afford to pay out of general fund, if need be, the interest for a loan, if we need to, until the state match comes. When that state match does come, because it will eventually come, the state will have to do something, we can pay off that loan and have our school now to protect all those kids and give them a better education.
With the next question, we'll rotate back to Dennis as the first person to answer. What programs would you implement to deal with youth at risk of dropping out of school?
Right now, we have several after-school programs. We're doing the best that we can, but what parents really need to understand is they have those students home for more hours of the day than what we have them at school. And it takes a village to raise a child, so you can't put the blame on the students. We have plenty of intervention programs. We have plenty of before-school programs. And moving forward, I think we need to bring us all together and maybe educate the parents a little bit more on the help that we need. Those that participate, those that actually participate in raising their children, we have no problem with those children at all.
Andre.
Intervention, that's a really challenging problem, and kids dropping out at the high school level. Although I think, if I'm not mistaken, the last time I heard that report, we're actually in Los Banos, we have a fairly good retention rate compared to other schools in the state. However, one thing that's been difficult for us to get off the ground, yet it's happening over at Pacheco, is a broader vocational offerings at the schools. I think that if we can appeal to students in ways that traditionally have not been available to them, it might give them one more reason to come to school that day, right? We put a lot of effort, time and money and effort into sports. We put a lot of time and money and effort in our district and community into agriculture, and that does capture the attention of a lot of kids. But I think that there are more opportunities that we could participate in with regard to broadening our vocational offerings at the high schools.
Marlene?
I actually agree with Mr. Soares about the vocational programs. From what I understand, we've eliminated quite a few vocational programs to the schools. I'd like to see vocational programs reinstituted into the schools for the children that are going to be going into the workforce versus college. I also like to see intramural sports being offered. The way it sits right now is we have our activities program. It's pretty inundated with kids, but if we offer intramural sports and other activities that are affordable to parents, sports, a lot of children love sports, and when they can't be involved, they find other things to do with their time. And I think if we can keep them on the school grounds with vocational programs, intramural sports, after-school activities, it might keep their interest in school. And then, of course, we have to always offer tutorial services, any extra support in education to keep them more in tune to their education.
The programs are there. We have sport programs. We have vocational programs. The kids make the choices throughout the day to do what they do. The parents aren't there either, neither are we. The teachers are the ones, to me, that saved me. I was one of those at-risk kids. The teachers are the ones that I relied on, talked to every day, and the teachers still to this day, a lot of times, are the ones that I look up to for saving me, for keeping me where I needed to be in class every day, doing what I needed to do. My coaches, my football coaches, my sports, everything that happened while I was a kid, those are the same things that are still offered today. It's a choice, and it's a choice that these kids make. At the end of the day, we can't make their choices for them. We can offer the programs, and we can put it there. We can't we can lead the horse to water, but we can't make them drink, folks.
Okay.
No problem. Yes, we do have programs in the schools today at the high school that are vocational programs, but I remember the days when wood shop was very popular, metal shop, plastics. I mean, these kids worked on these things, they made projects, and then one day, one year, all that was taken away from them and replaced with computers. And that's good, don't take me wrong, computers are good, but there are some people who need that hands-on. You know, there was a program by the Merced County that used to take kids needed that also. And so when certain ideas come in from the state and they expect everybody to, pass the KC or whatever it is, you're forgetting those kids that can't. For example, my son.
I'm going to give Ruben 10 more seconds because his mic wasn't.
All right. My son, who is special, he's special ed. I mean, he's 21 years old, sitting at home because he has no skills. I gave him a crescent wrench the other day, say, hey, hold that nut, and he didn't know how to work a crescent wrench.
Okay. Our great opportunity for folks at home to present questions to the candidates. We're not getting as many questions as we hope. So those of you at home, people here in the audience are doing a great job. Those of you at home, please, if you have a question, call it in or email it in looking at the information at the bottom of the screen. The next question, we will begin with Andre, I believe, will be the first person up. Do you feel all students should be supplied with an electronic device, such as a Chromebook, instead of textbooks? If so, how would the district pay for such a program?
I don't necessarily think that technology or computers or Chromebooks or tablets are going to replace textbooks in every case. I know that with the implementation of Common Core, children have to be able to test on those devices, and so they have to learn how to use them. And so that's been the greatest push for us to quickly get as many of those in the hands of students that we can. There fortunately have been a lot of programs available and grants available that our district has taken advantage of to purchase those devices, and at the same time we've used our own money, deferred maintenance money, to support our infrastructure backbone throughout the district.
Marlene.
Yes, I do agree with electronic books. I think that it could be funded through grants through larger corporations in the greater Bay Area. Many schools in the Bay Area, the students do have Chromebooks, and they have gone to e-books versus hardbacks. I'm not sure what the cost is with the hardback versus the e-book, but I definitely think it's something to research. A lot of our children do not have electronic devices in their home, and if this society is going towards electronics and the infrastructure is going to be electronics, when we get to college it will be electronics, it would be wonderful to implement that in the schools in Los Banos.
John.
I'm an old-fashioned guy. I learned on textbooks, but the way of the world and the way things are turning nowadays, these kids, when they get to college, they're expected to know electronics. You hand a 5-year-old kid a smartphone, and he knows how to work it better than most parents do. That's a fact nowadays. These kids learn better on these devices. I really do believe in that. Unfortunately, it's expensive to turn everything over to that. We've already started down that road. A lot of our elementaries have already gone that way. We have classrooms throughout the district that have one tablet per kid in that classroom. We're doing those tests right now. Do I believe in it? Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be a great thing, and moving toward the future, that's the way it's going to have to be. Our teachers in the district are already working on grants to get those tablets and everything else for their classrooms. That's a great thing.
Ruben.
Yes. And one way to fund it, as John says, is grants. But, you know, I don't know personally how many grants the school district has presented to people that are willing to give them the grant. And one example that I look at is that why is it that in some cities, every school has solar panels, and they have gone through grants, and those schools are well, in other words, electricity's come from solar panels, and you look here, not one has it, and it had to do with grants. So my question is, not right now, but my question is, how many grants do we really apply for? And when it comes to the technology, yes, we need it. My daughter goes on Brain Honey, or tries to go on Brain Honey at home for her science class, and she can't get on. I try to go on it. I can't get on. So I talked to her teacher.
Dennis.
It's been said already, it's very important that we continue to pursue the grants that are out there. We've been doing this now for the last 4 or 5 years when it comes to technology, but there's also site money that's given to each individual site so that they can keep up with technology. Some of the sites have made it a priority, so that's why when you go to some of the schools, there's more technology at those schools than others. But now, as of last year, we're working into a program now so that we can bring all the sites up so that we have iPads and these devices for more and more students as they move forward. For myself, I still believe we can't lose the hand factor. We need to teach these kids how to read from a book and how to use their hands to perform the everyday jobs that need to take place.
With our next question, we'll begin with Marlene as the first person to answer. Again, those of you at home, send in your questions, please. What is your position on the new junior high? Should it be built in phases, or should we wait for state money?
If it's going to be built in phases, it has to have a gymnasium and a food service area. Those are essential for a school. I can't imagine building one without that. I think it's very important that we definitely work on one, and I'm going to opt to say if we don't have the money to build a full-size school, that we build it in phases.
John?
I do, obviously, I've talked about it already. I promote that. It does need to be built in phases. It does need to be built. We have it's an impacted school right now at our junior high level. There's 1,575 kids there. The school was built for 900. Yes, can we build that school in phases? You bet we can. Does it need a gym? Absolutely, it needs a gym. The phase that I would recommend is we build the school, we build the 2 wings that need to be built, we build the gym, and we leave 1 wing out, just as what we did at Pacheco High. We can come back and build that once that state match money comes in. We can come back and complete that school, and with that state match money, turn around and build the wing at Pacheco High and create more room there too. So there's a lot of different options out there, folks, and this board is part of making those hard decisions in order to spend that kind of money for the welfare of kids. That's what needs to happen.
Ruben?
Repeat the question, please.
Sure. What is your position on the new junior high? Should it be built in phases, or should we wait for state money?
Well, number one, phases, to me, will not work. I mean, how would you like to have your home built and they put in your kitchen only? You know, and then you have to wait for the rest. But my concern is, why is it that all of a sudden the board is so in dire need to build this junior high school? I mean, we're talking about 1,578, excuse me, I think we had 3 enrollments in the last few days, because that's what I checked on Friday to see what their enrollment was. And where was it last year? Was it at 1,000? Was it at 900? And where was it the year before that? And the year before that, because I was at the junior high school, and I was, because I've been subbing at different schools, and they had a double session then 3 years ago. I mean, lunch session, double lunches. And you should see those lines for lunches. Some of the kids wait forever to get a lunch. My daughter goes there. She's in 7th grade, and I feel sorry for her. So she just, because sometimes she just quit, doesn't eat at all.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you just can't get out there and build a school. You need to identify land to start with. We started this project a little over 4 years ago to identify a spot to build the next junior high. We were actually off of I Street to start with by Pioneer Road, and that was not available to us the way it turned out, so now we've bought the other project. We have taken a state-approved set of plans. We are now retrofitting them to the current site. Now, as far as building that junior high, no, you're not going to have $25 million at your front door to build the whole thing. But what you do is you build as many classrooms as possible. You put in an administrative office so they can manage those classrooms, and you build it in phases. Hopefully, in 2016, our water bond and our high-speed rail will be behind us, and there will be a school bond on the ballot. And if we start to build the school now, that means we'll start construction in 2015. By the time the bond passes in 16, we can very well have matching state funds to finish the project by 2017.
Andre?
Dennis wrapped it up nicely there. I think we're at a point, I think we're going to be faced with a decision where it's going to be very simple. We have to build it in phases because our other option is don't build it at all, and that's not an option. Mr. Santos, we all know it's crowded. And I think most everybody knows that the school district has been consumed with building schools for quite some time. We haven't been turning the other cheek. We haven't been ignoring what's going on there. We just completed Mercy Springs Elementary. I think you knew that. So we have to build it in phases if that's all the money allows. But there's creative things that we can do to make that the best learning environment still for the children.
Next question, I believe we will begin with John. How would you achieve staff diversity in the district that would be representative of the population of Los Banos?
It's already been said a few different times. We go out and try to recruit our teachers all over, different fairs all over. I believe this year we did go to Fresno State. We did go to a couple different local areas to try to achieve that goal, to try to recruit teachers that were like-minded, like our students, from our area, in order for these kids to, at the end of the day, look at their teacher and see something in their teacher that was inside themselves. That's a big deal. In our community, it is a diverse community. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that our district looks similar to our students.
Ruben.
One comment that was said by John was that they could look within themselves, I believe. And I guess when I go into a high school as a substitute teacher and I welcome the students, and then I begin to welcome them in Spanish, their eyes just blow up. It's like, wow, he speaks Spanish. And you don't have to be bilingual to teach these kids, but they relate to me. And if you were to go to that school right now at Pacheco and take a popularity vote, just like one of the Spanish teachers said, I'm on maternity leave coming up soon, and the first things those guys said was get Santos to substitute for us. But to find out, I can't. Okay, and I won't go into that detail.
We actually do a study in the district every so many years, and it was like 5 or 6 years ago we did do a study. I believe at that time we were 66 or 67% Hispanic, non-English speaking children in our school district, and we had, believe it or not, 66 to 67% Hispanic employees in our school district. Now, I am not one to hire somebody by the color of their skin or the language that they speak. I believe that we should be hiring the best person possible to help educate our children. Now, we should have, and we do, have employees, teachers, administrators that are of ethnic, color, whatever, that are at our school sites. It's very important that these kids do have somebody to go talk to, but to think you want me to go out and hire somebody that does not have the correct skills and put them in the classroom, our job is to educate the children in our district to the best of our ability, and that's putting the best person in there possible.
Andre.
The question was, how would I hire teachers that reflect the diversity of the district, right?
Well, I'll repeat it.
I think that's what it was.
How would you achieve staff diversity in the district that would be representative of the population of Los Banos?
Staff diversity in the district. Well, if I were to try to do that to be reflective of the district, then I would be forced to be looking at the color of people's skin or the language that they spoke, and not their qualities and qualifications for the job at hand. I refuse to do that. I'm not, as Dennis said, I would never ask our superintendent to direct his staff to hire people based on the color of their skin, or if they're male or female, or if they speak a certain language. I would not want to put barriers in front of our kids that would prevent them from learning. I wouldn't want to create language barriers or make those worse. Our jobs would be to make that easier for them. However, I will always support hiring the best person for the job.
Marlene.
I absolutely support diversity. I do believe that they have to be qualified teachers, and I think that if they sought areas, local universities where the kids from this area go out and go to school, if they decide to come back home and teach, it's going to give you some diversity. It's going to give you students from this area. We know that the population in the city is about 70% Hispanic. That's quite a number. Hispanic students are going out to schools and coming back here. I don't know if I would seek out just one nationality, but certainly I would seek out students that have been to this area, went out to school, and have come back. It seems like it's a very passionate subject, diversity. We all have to embrace it. It has to happen. We have to embrace it. This is a world of the plenty, land of opportunity. We accept everybody here, so we have to seek out diversity.
The next question, I believe we'll start with Ruben first. What are your thoughts on tenure for teachers? Is it a good or bad thing, and why?
Like most things, you have its positive and negative, and it's really difficult to go in and evaluate a teacher, especially when you hear that some of the teachers are using YouTube to teach. And handing out papers and listening to Pandora in the back of the room. And so, yes, those are the teachers that need to go. But here again, to catch them doing that is the difficult part. And so tenure is obviously good for the good teachers, and it's not good for those teachers that are not there for the purpose of the students. And yeah, I've been there for 4 years subbing, and I see I see some, I'm not going to say but I see some teachers there for their paycheck. And I can tell you a few. If you want to step outside with me, I will give you a few. But here again, they're there. So there's good teachers and bad teachers.
Dennis.
Tenure is one of those things we actually, as a school board, have no control over. That's a bargaining chip with with our bargaining group. So if you're asking me what I think about tenure, I think in some instances it's somewhat of a crutch. I would just as soon pay all of our employees a base salary, and then based on performance, pay them accordingly as you move up. Now, again, I've brought this up before, and I've been told that there's no way to evaluate teachers that way. Well, right now, for those of you who don't know, Isla Nelson is at the Merced County level. She is our representative for County Teacher of the Year. So that tells me there's already a process in place that we can pick those that excel and that rise above the rest of them. So I believe there's a process in place that we could monitor, we could tweak a little bit, and we could pay people a base wage and then pay them on performance and move the terrific ones up higher and leave the other ones where they need to be, or let them go.
Andre.
I actually don't, I don't support tenure. I've learned to work within it, being on the board. I find that it creates a lot of barriers to performance. I feel like it keeps certain individuals from exceeding because it diminishes incentive to exceed for some professionals. And then, of course, it does provide a safety net for those who aren't performing. And in both of those cases, the kids lose. So if I had my druthers, I would do away with tenure, although we've learned to work around it, or excuse me, work within it. But I would prefer a work environment where teachers are paid based on merit, and create, as an employer, we could create positive work environments that with fair working practices that I think would benefit the community at large.
Marlene.
You know, my question is, how come we're reviewing this again? It's been slated and ruled that we had tenure. If teachers become lackadaisical, it doesn't mean that they can't be removed from their position. They have to still perform. If they've put their time in, just like on my job, I put my time in, I look forward to getting something after 30 years of working there. I look forward to some kind of something for putting the time in that I have put in at the hospital here in town. I'd like a little something back. I'm not saying that they could never release me. If my performance diminished, of course that requires me to be released or re-educated or redone something to, because I wouldn't want to continue providing services to the community if I wasn't up to speed. The same thing should go with the teachers. If they can't provide the services to our children that's required, then they have to be removed from the position. But tenure is something that we've always had, and I'm not sure now why it's been removed if the legislation has already set the standards and said that it is what it is.
John.
Tenure, to me, is a double-edged sword. 99% of our teachers here do their job and don't need tenure to protect them because they do their job. Their kids are educated in their classrooms. They have no issues. To me, tenure just doesn't protect the teacher that does their job because they don't need it. The teacher that doesn't do their job is the one that it protects. Unfortunately, in this society, in the world we have, in order to protect the good, sometimes we have to protect the bad with it. Do I necessarily agree with it? No, I don't, because I'd rather be able to release the people who aren't doing their job and aren't doing right by kids, and I'd rather do it easily without having to go through and cut all the red tape of tenure. But we can do that. we have to go through a lot of red tape to do it, and we've done it already, and we're going to continue to cut that red tape to do it, but tenure overall protects good teachers.
The next question, I believe we are back to Dennis, being the first respondent. Do you support the current superintendent? Why or why not?
When we have our goal-setting day, we also do a superintendent evaluation. And we have a vision as a school board of what we want our district to look like and how we want to move those children forward. And I can tell you from our goal-setting day that we had, I believe it was in February of this last year or April, whenever we did that, our superintendent got good remarks from all 7 board members. He is put in a very tough position, but he is handling it very well. He's moving us in the direction we want to move in, and that was evident by the scores that we gave him, that everyone gave him when we had our superintendent evaluation day. So yes, he is the person for the job moving forward, and until he falters, I believe he's the man that's going to lead us to the next, down the road.
Andre.
I do support our superintendent, Steve Cheechin. I think that he's actually done a really good job in a really difficult political and economic environment. It's really easy to not pay too much attention to what the superintendent may or may not be doing when there's plenty of money to go around. Well, in the last several years, there hasn't been plenty of money to go around. And in my opinion, the superintendent has taken the brunt of that. All the while, he has maintained his work towards the goals set by this board, and every year he's evaluated against his performance is evaluated against those goals and reaching those goals. And there's no doubt about it. It's difficult to argue. There's very objective information that shows us he is working towards the goals of this district to serve this whole community. I fully support the superintendent.
Marlene.
I'm going to say absolutely I support him. I'm going to say that he must have very thick skin. I'm going to say that he's almost in a role like the president, where you get a lot of good and a lot of bad comments. Some people like you, some people won't. As far as I know of Mr. Tejan, he does a very good job in the school district, and if I get on the board, my goal is to support him and allow him to be the superintendent that he is.
John.
Dr. Tejan, you don't have to break bread with the man to know that he does his job. I'm not going to go break bread with him. I'm not his friend. I'm one of 7 of his bosses. At the end of the day, it's our duty to evaluate him, make sure he's done his job, and give him either a yes or no that he did a good job. Over the last 4 years, every time I've evaluated that man, I've given him a yes, that he's done a good job. Our fiscal well-being in this district is where it's at with a $12 million reserve because he sought out help and had the forethought in order to change things ahead of time so that we didn't lose money in this recession as bad as we could have. Along with our bargaining groups, our superintendent put our future way ahead, leaps and bounds ahead of other districts around us. As far as supporting him, I'm 100% in support of our superintendent.
Ruben.
In supporting our superintendent, I would say that if I was elected, I would have to support him because he is the superintendent. But I believe that most of you who have been at the board meetings know that I'm one who does, as a citizen, not support his things, what he does. I mean, I stood right up there and challenged him on some of the things that he has proposed. And as one of the board members said, you know, we're not a rubber stamp to him. I said, you chose the words, I didn't. And to say also that all 7 of you support him and gave him great raving remarks, I would like to have that quoted because I truly don't believe that.
The next question, I believe we'll begin with Andre. Do you have a copy of the adopted budget, and what do you see as the biggest challenge financially?
I do have that budget, as I have all the budgets that we have to manage. The biggest challenge financially With the inception of LCFF, which is a different funding formula the states have been mandated to use, it's called the local control funding formula, the state has handed down more, has given us more liberty and ability to spend the money in ways that we see fit for our particular community. So what that means for us is that we now have to make tougher choices. Before, the state made those for us, and we complained about that too, trust me. But now, we're given the liberty to make tougher choices with that, make the choices with that, and so we are going to have to allocate some of that money in places that are going to be more debatable. And it's going to be difficult to allocate those funds in a way that keeps people happy, yet still provides the learning environment and, most importantly, the physical plants of the schools that we need to build.
Marlene.
I do not have a copy of the budget, but I do know that the local control accountability plan is set to it will actually describes how the money is to be spent throughout the district. From what I understand, each district was given their money to allocate it in areas that they saw fit, and hopefully our district is managing that money well. I know that it was meant to be made up of community members. I'm not sure what that makeup looks like, but hopefully it's working out really well.
John.
The future things I see problems with our budget, the junior high, building that junior high, finding the funds for it, continuing to give our teachers raises like they deserve, finding the things inside of our budget in order to keep our employees happy, the kids well educated, and a roof over their head that's safe, that promotes a good learning environment. All these things are future budget problems that we're going to have, and that's what the board's here for. That's what we do every day. Yes, I have a copy of that budget, and I've gone over it from page to page, front to back, and every time we do, we all have questions. That's why we have the superintendent. That's why we have our assistant superintendents. That's why we call these people, we talk to them, we ask our questions, and we get them answered. We have to have a plan moving forward to mitigate all these issues and make sure that they're taken care of for kids.
Ruben.
The answer to having the budget, no, I don't have the budget. But that's a good question. Why don't I have the budget? But you know, for example, you know, the city works different than school districts. The city took their future council members, for example, if they win, and I believe they were presented the budget, and they were given a tour of city offices and so forth. Mr. Tidgen has not, knowing that I'm running for this position, knowing that she's running for this position, and at least for me, I don't think he's ever approached me. Oh no, he has approached me, but we won't go there. That was not a good experience. Anywho, you would think that we would be welcomed, even though we're not yet elected, that we would get an idea of what we're getting ourselves into.
Our superintendent has an open door policy, and if I was running for a seat for the first time, I would go visit him. I would ask for the budget. I would ask for what we're facing, what we're heading into, and how we're handling what's going on a daily basis. We have an $81 million budget. We have what they call local control funding in our school district that's been sent down to us by the state. But yet, local control funding doesn't mean we get to spend the money and run our budget like we want. The state is saying, you have local control, but you need to spend this much money here and this much money there, and when it's all through, you're going to have this much left over to run your school district. So when they say it's local control, it actually isn't. They're telling us that we can only have up to a 6% reserve. They're saying it's too much if we have more than a reserve for that. 6% reserve is not even 60 days of salaries for our employees. I believe we should be able to make sure our employees don't have to worry about their paycheck, and $5 million a month is a lot.
Question. I believe the first person to answer will be Marlene. The district received funding to bring sports programs back to the junior high. should after-school sports programs be reinstituted even if they cut into funds from team sports?
Yes, because team sports only allow a certain amount of kids to participate. A team can only hold so many students. We have many more students than that want to participate. Many students cannot afford to do activities through Parks and Rec because it's very expensive. If the school would take some funds back and put them into something like intramural sports, more children can be involved in sports activities. So I would say yes, we need to remove some of the money from the sporting events that we hold now and put it back into intramural sports or after-school activities.
John?
To take away from our sporting teams that we already have, that's a pretty hard thing to do. In society, the one thing that I have a problem with is sometimes at the Parks and Rec level, it's nice to take everybody and everybody gets a trophy and everybody gets a hat and everybody's told they do a good job and everybody's told, you know, they're a part of the team and this and that, but the real world doesn't do that. The real world tells you if you aren't good enough, then you aren't on the team. The real world is hard, and that's the way it is. I would love to see it, and if we had the funds and we could find the funds for it, without a doubt, I'd be all for it. I'd be behind it. But to cut programs in order to have that, I don't know if I could be behind that. We already are running a lot of our programs, you know, at a very minimal level. We cut them back and control what money we give to them as is. So to take from them for after sports or after school events would be very, very difficult.
I was under the understanding that after-school sports were replaced at the junior high. Now, after having heard these things, it sounds like maybe only part of it is or whatever. I coached after-school sports in the wrestling field 3 years ago, and then, or 4, I can't remember, but the next year they cut us off, and I couldn't coach there anymore. There was no more wrestling. And but I still run into Victor. I still run into some of my wrestlers at the high school level. And, you know, when it comes to after-school sports, you can't compare it with recreation. It's just part of your everyday. And even now, even at the young age, they have Pop Warner or they have Tiger, little whatever football. And to not have it at the junior high school, I think it's a total discredit to our community. So now, do we cut into the other programs? Well, I didn't think we had to cut into the other programs.
Yes.
Here's where a little bit of that history will help everybody out there. When we cut the sports program at the junior high, that was because the other teams that were in the league that we were playing at that time had budget crunches more severe than ours, and they said that if we wanted to continue playing them, we had to travel to their home field for every game. That made it pretty much impossible with our budget at that time to do that. So I visited with the principal at the high school at the time and the athletic director, and they said there are enough children here at the junior high that we can do intramural sports and we would be just fine with PE and doing stuff right there on site. So that's how we left it. Now we are back to where those kids are playing again after school, and I think we've done a terrific job.
I don't know that I would, I liked the idea of intramural sports when we did it because we had to do it, but it did create an environment where I know that the teachers thought it was a good environment for the school. A lot of kids got to participate, although we lost the team sports. So I don't know that I would support taking away, now that we have reinstated team sports at the junior high. I know this is, I don't know if this question is related to any particular school, but I don't know in general if I would support taking from team sports to support intramural. However, I do support intramural sports and I would certainly consider looking at or supporting schools that wanted to continue that, to help them find a way to do that. And with regard to money, I have to say this. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that anybody seeking an office such as this with the responsibility of an $80 million budget, it would be your responsibility to seek that out, seek that information out, and become very, very familiar with it. It's too big of a responsibility.
The next question, we will begin with John, and this is a question received from a home viewer. This is history being made right here from a home viewer. What are your thoughts on Common Core? What are the pros? What are the cons?
Common Core, I think in our district, we are ahead of our time as far as Common Core goes. We have groups of teachers already building our curriculum. Common Core is handed down to us from the state. At our state level, they've already adopted it, they want it, and that's what we've been told. We're part of the movement. Our California as a whole wants to be a part of Common Core. So we took that on, and instead of just sitting back and waiting for the state to tell us what that curriculum was going to be, we took the initiative as a board and as our administration to start building that curriculum now so that we were ahead of our time, so we knew exactly what we were going to do. Once those floodgates opened and the state wanted us to be at that level and do Common Core, we were ready to go. And that's being built by our teachers in our district. So if somebody says that our teachers aren't the best, our teachers are the best. They're the ones starting this.
Ruben.
Common Core, yes. It's the whole idea that we, in a way, are not providing graduates for the workforce. And the reason we may not be providing that is because we have been teaching, I believe, through memorization, instead of critical thinking and getting the children to think in terms of what the resolution will be, what the answer will be for whatever. And I find it interesting, and then again, maybe I was misinformed, but I thought the teachers were going to Gustine to get their development for the Common Core. Because if that's the case, who's teaching whom? And, you know, I get tired of hearing that we have the best district, we have the best, and I hope we do. But at the same time, if we don't, let's fix it.
Again, a little bit of misinformation there. Los Banos actually teamed up with Gustine and Dos Palace. I'm not for sure if there was another school involved or not, but we got together as a group to do the Common Core so that we could all save money within our districts rather than each district doing it individually at a very expensive cost. So having our teachers group with theirs, we all saved money, all districts saved money when we put this program together. Now getting back to Common Core, it's going to make if run properly, it is supposed to make the student think about the answer and not just put it down. So there you go with that hands-on thing. They're going to have to be thinking at the beginning to come out with an answer at the end and have the whole formula, or it's not going to work. But again, we're being proactive, we're ahead of everybody around us because we've got very involved teachers that are writing the curriculum right now for all of us.
Pros and cons of Common Core. First of all, the standards that we are teaching are not changing, but the methods in which we're teaching that curriculum are changing. The curriculum is developed to promote more critical thinking, more teamwork, more problem-solving skills, and to do away with the memorization, which has been promoted, I must say, over the last several years, and the curriculum that the state had been pursuing. The cons is that it's another change. It's another change for the kids, it's another change for the students. And with that curriculum build that has been spoken of up here, it's a lot of work. And it's not only the initial development of that curriculum, but it's then getting that curriculum out to all the teachers in all the classrooms. So there's a lot of professional development involved. So there's a big investment in Common Core, and we have yet to see the results of it, but we're working very hard, and the goal is to have highly qualified, educated students.
Marlene.
What I've seen and heard about Common Core, at this point, I like it. I like it a lot. My granddaughter happens to be in first grade, and I'm seeing great progress with her. She is learning to think critically, and I think I'm seeing the skills in her that I didn't see in my children was because they came under a different teaching. I think Common Core is going to be great. It's going to help our kids get to the stage. They can compete on a national level. I think that there's some difficulties with it when they rolled it out. The first 2 years, as we know, is like a trial period. The kids won't be tested for up to the third year, which is great. I think that we could just embrace it and support it. If it's all for the good of the children and it gets them prepared for the workforce and or secondary education, we have to embrace it and support it. Nothing comes easy. Education is evolving, and we have to prepare our children to be more competitive so they can stay in their home and be professional people.
The next question, the first respondent will be Ruben, I believe. How would you rate the quality of education we're getting for the money spent?
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much money we spent, but I do know that we're near bankruptcy, so obviously we've been spending a lot of money. And when I see these high school seniors in class, I value, I mean, they're great kids. I mean, the calculus classes, they're in some of these chemistry classes, and I think that they are getting a quality education in certain areas. I do believe that maybe we might implement computer programming or something to that, in that area, so that we could get more technology into the schools, so that these kids that are going into engineering, that they're prepared. Calculus classes, these classes that are needed so that they can in turn do well at a four-year college.
Again, we are not broke as a district. We've been certified by the county 3 years out. We have a $12 million reserve. So that part of it, we're just fine. We're solvent, and we're very conservative up here as a board representing our community. As far as our students, you can track our students. We're actually doing a better job now tracking them. We're following them outside of high school, trying to track them to whatever college they go to see what kind of feedback we can get to see which ones are graduating from a four-year school, which ones are not succeeding, and we're gathering all that information right now so that we can see if there's possibly something we're missing or if there's a way we can improve on our student achievement.
Andre.
First of all, I have to say, I think we just heard from a person who has not seen the budget and doesn't know how much we spend, that we're near bankruptcy. So I would hope that anybody listening to this considers the full source of that information, and we are quite solvent. I can assure you of that. So how do I feel about the number of dollars spent compared to the student learning? Close enough. I'm frustrated with it. I've been frustrated since the first day I got on the board, actually before I got on the board. It costs a lot of money to be in public education, in this business. 85 or 6% of our total expenses go to salaries and benefits for our employees. We're the largest employer in town. That leaves us with the remainder to actually provide materials, special programs for kids. So it's constantly been frustrating for me. We do the very best that we can, and we're always trying to get the best for our dollar.
Marlene.
I was reviewing the APA scores from 2012 and 13, and our children are not at level. Well, actually, Charleston and Volta were just above 800, but most of the schools in Los Banos are not at the level where they should be. I think the dollar amount is excessive. I think that the children are doing well compared to other states. California is not bad, but we're not where maybe we should be on the national level. But I do think that in California, our students are not bad. They're actually doing pretty good, but just not where the benchmark is, which is 800. We're not meeting the benchmark.
I do believe that our final budget at the end of the year is a public document. So it doesn't matter if you're running for board, running for office or not, you can have access to that public document. Anybody can. So if anyone wanted to know how much we spent at the end of the year for our kids in our district, anybody could know that. And also at the end of that, they would know that we're not bankrupt. We're not even close to bankrupt with a $12 million reserve. The only thing that puts us in any risk whatsoever is the state and the way the state funds us. At the end of the day, the bang for the buck, our kids come out of Los Banos well educated. I've hired kids from this district, and they work their way through problems on their own. At the end of the day, we hire a lot of local kids for our businesses. There's other business owners in town that have local kids that have worked and become some of the best people they've ever had work for their business, and they're graduates from right here and well educated.
Question, we'll start with Dennis. Have you heard about restorative justice programs as an approach to discipline? How do you feel about it?
You know that.
Oh, pardon me, Dennis.
You know, that's just something that's coming out now, and it's making the forefront here at all the school districts up and down the state. And with all the intervention programs that we do have, we're always trying to save just one more. So we're going to do our best to monitor this as it moves forward so that we can do the best job we can to educate every student and keep all of them involved and on task so that they can be productive young people in the future.
Andre.
I don't know much about these programs, to be quite honest with you. I know that it's something that we're going to be faced with or have the opportunity to explore, and be happy to do that if it's programs that are going to help retain our kids in school and keep them where they need to be at this phase of their life.
Marlene.
Can you repeat that question, please?
Sure. Have you heard about restorative justice programs as an approach to discipline? How do you feel about it?
I have not heard of that program. If it's something that's been researched, tried and true, as long as it doesn't bring back paddling or electric paddle, I might be in agreement with that. But I have not heard of that program.
John.
That's kind of in the forefront of dealing with troubled kids nowadays, and the kids that get in trouble outside of school. I would be behind it once the program gets tried and true. It's not a full-out program yet, as I know, what I've heard. I would love to see it, and I'd love to get a little bit more information about it, look into it, research it, find out for myself, and then make that decision as a board. That's why there's 7 of us up here, to take these programs, look at these programs, research these programs with our administrators, and find out what's the best fit and the best programs for our kids in Los Banos. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. If that fits our kids in Los Banos, and that program can hold back and keep these kids out of trouble and keep them in school and save 1 more and get 2 more to graduate, great. I'm all for it.
Ruben.
No, I have not heard of that program, but just listening to the title of that program, I wish we would get it implemented as soon as possible. Because what I see out there is that some of these students, yes, and it's usually the ones that, and they say, oh, I'm ADHD, or something. And the reason they're saying that is because they're being disciplined. But the disciplining that I see in some of the schools, I feel is unjust. And it's not cruel, but at the same time, when a student is asked to stand in the sun for X amount of time, and that's his punishment, this discipline. This is why we have some of these kids that rebel. Or the first day of school at the junior high school, and they're already picking up, the girls are already picking up trash because they didn't have the right clothing or whatever. So yes, there are those behavioral situations or dress codes. And I'll be honest with you, when I went to a junior high school, we had common school dress.
The next question, I believe we start with Andre.
Are we continuing, John, or are we stopping at 8:30?
Yeah. Or 8:35. Go what? We got this question and 1 more.
Okay.
And then we'll go to, very good. See, these folks are on top of me, but those are my directions anyway. So we have this question plus 1 more. How should the school district address bullying?
There are lots of programs. Bullying, as we all know, we hear it all the time now, and it's real, and it has to do, in my opinion, with the cultures that are allowed to be cultivated at the school sites. And that starts with the principals, who are helping their teachers create those positive learning environments that are transferring down to the classrooms and the playgrounds, and it's just zero tolerance for that type of behavior. And I think that we can achieve that by continuing to promote those cultures through our principals and the teachers.
I think bullying is very, very dangerous. I think that bullying is on the verge to hazing. I think that peer pressure is great. Status on a school campus is important to a lot of students. I think that it needs to be taken very, very carefully, very, very cautiously, and handled as soon as that event happens. It can't be tolerated.
Bullying, I think, goes back to a zero tolerance thing. At the end of the day, these kids that bully other kids, our staff is there to control that. And they do the best job they can and deal with those issues as soon as they happen. I don't believe in any of that. There's gang problems in our schools that add to that. At our junior high level, our high school level, all these things should be zero tolerance. Gangs, zero tolerance. Absolutely zero tolerance. Bullying, zero tolerance. There's things that I don't believe in at all and happen in our district and are allowed to continue because there's not necessarily they're a good kid and they're this and that. It needs to be put into a program. There has to be something done about bullying in our district.
Ruben.
So what is our policy today in terms of a student who has been caught bullying? You know, what do we do with them? And I don't have the answer, but here again, brainstorming. And you know what? Bullying doesn't just count on the kids. Bullying, I mean, I read an article that senior citizens bully each other at their homes. It's like, oh, you can't sit there. Jane sits there. You know, and they rag on each other in their home. And I'll be honest with you, I don't like to be bullied myself. But personally, I was bullied myself and told that I was a nothing. And I'm a sub in this school district, that I was a nothing. I was not even an employee in this school, that I had no right and so forth. So, you know, I felt I was being bullied.
Again, it's already been said, we have zero tolerance in our school district. Specifically, it's up to the discretion of the principal and the people on staff on how they handle it. And we have plenty of interventions in place. I mean, before a student comes to us for an expulsion, they will have 20-plus infractions and interventions that have been tried. Sometimes it's in the 30s that we have tried. We've called parents. We've done everything that we can. And so we're doing the best that we can. This is just another one of those things. And with the number of students that's at the junior high, gives you an idea how important it is that we start sooner than later on building the next junior high to alleviate a little of that crowding.
This is the last question, and then we'll go to closing statements. What do you believe should be the current #1 priority in the district?
Building the junior high. Is that for me? Is that for me?
Microphone. What do you believe should be the current #1 priority in the district?
To alleviate overcrowding by building a junior high school. That's it. That's all.
John.
I have to agree with Marlene 100%. Our junior high level has to be right now our critical issue at our district. Without alleviating that impacted school, I think that we are being less than just to 16% of our district. We aren't taking care of something that needs to be taken care of. If we turn our head and don't do anything at all at that junior high level and create a larger school there than it already is and do nothing at this point, I think the liability falls back on the board when something else happens. So I think right now, definitely building our junior high is our #1 priority.
I believe fiscal responsibility is #1. And if you're not fiscally stable, I mean, why are we spending more money? And so, you know, you hear from the current board saying that, well, we're $12 million in the strong. So, well, yeah, but I came to a board meeting, they were talking about using that for their junior high school and digging into the general fund. So what is it? Are you going to use it or are you not? Are you going to dig into the general fund? Are you not? Are you going to affect future salaries of teachers? Are you not? And so sometimes I hear these things and I'm going, decide what you're going to do and speak what the truth is instead of what you want people to hear.
Again, a little misinformation. There's actually $8.1 million left over from the bond that was passed when we built Pacheco High School that has been earmarked to start that junior high. We also have developer fee money and other money that we have identified within our current school budget so that we have a little over $11 million to get started on this project. Yes, the #1 priority right now in our school district and the main focus, and it's probably taken up 80% of my time in the last 3 months specifically, is the junior high. We need to alleviate that crowding. We need to start building that facility before we're all in a worse spot than we are now, because those children deserve it. Some schools for me when I was growing up, and there was people that didn't know me that put money in to build those schools, and now it's our job to take care of the students that are there in our district.
I think that building junior high is important, but I think it's more of a financial challenge. I don't think it's our #1 priority. I think that we'll handle it, we'll take care of it. Whoever's up here, we'll build a junior high. It will happen. And we will remain fiscally solvent while doing it. But I think the greatest priority that this district has is successful implementation of Common Core so that our children are continuing to learn, our kids are continuing to move forward, and that's what we're here for. That's why we exist. It's not to employ people, it's not to keep adults happy all the time, it's to create learning environments for children, whatever that takes. And so we'll do that, but I think our greatest priority needs to remain teaching kids every day.
That concludes our questions. We're just about to start the closing statements, but I would like to thank everybody in the audience and everybody at home. We got through most of them. There are only a few left that we didn't get to because of time. I thought they were excellent questions. And now we start the closing statements. The way we choose the first person to do a closing statement, I have the names of the candidates in the basket, and I will be drawing one out, and then that person starts, and we'll do the same rotation that we would on questions. So this is the biggest moment I have. Remember, you get 2 minutes, and Rachel will give you a full 2 minutes. And according to my pulling a name out of the basket, the first person to start will be John.
I'm a businessman in the community here. I'm going to continue to be a businessman in the community here. I want to sit on this board and continue to help this district develop new schools, develop children. At the end of the day, the district is a business. We have a very large budget in town, millions and millions of dollars. We employ more people than anyone else, and we have a product. Right now we have 10,135 of them. They're kids. At the end of the day, we need a good product. A well-educated child is the product of this business. Moving forward, to not take care of kids it's a hard thing to stomach. To watch people want to choose people by race or by ethnicity or by anything else. At the end of the day, you choose the best person for the job. You place that person, you follow that person's career for the first few years, and you make sure that they're the best for kids. We have administrators in place that do an excellent job. We have great bargaining groups that we work with every day to help our teachers, to help our staff doing yard, maintenance, transportation. All these people that we have in place, they've now entrusted us to do their hiring, to help them, where they had other hiring entities in between us. It shows that not only have we built those bridges with our employees, but we've also done a very good job. You look at our test scores through the last few years, through a recession, our test scores keep going up. That's because our teachers, our administrators, and our board have steered us in a good direction. And as long as we follow that and keep doing that, we'll be just fine.
Ruben.
I've been in education for many years, actually now I've been 39 years. I've been in the classroom. I've been at the junior high level. And you know, when I tell people I've taught junior high school for X amount of years, they look at me in amazement and going, you gotta be kidding, you survived. But you know what? Those were great years. And I used to tell my wife, when school started, I'm now on vacation because I enjoyed going to work. And when summer started, then that's when I got to work because I had to deal with my own children and so forth. But here again, I have been in there for many years. Now, I've not only worked as a teacher, I've also worked in other capacities as a principal. Principal had to go to a conference, whatever. Ruben, come on in, take over. Vice principal, counselor. I did those particular jobs because I was seen as a person who was responsible, who was knowledgeable, and one other thing was educated. And I say educated because, you know, I hear this thing about best person possible. Here again, it's who's defining that word? I spoke to a person who was on the panel for hiring teachers, and she tells me, sorry, I said she, the person tells me, they just don't cut it, Ruben. What do you mean they don't cut it? You know, because we're talking about bringing in people that are from here. And when I heard that, I said, how can you say something like that? And they're referring to best person possible, but you know what? I guarantee you that give some of those teachers a try and they'll cut it. They'll do it. Someone said something about people put money into it. Well, hey, I'm in the red at the end of the month. Some of you may not be in the red at the end of the month. So, hey, if you got the money, you want to put it in for junior high schools, I'm welcome to put a kitty out there and put your money in it. But anyway, thank you.
Okay, I thought I'd give everybody a little bit of history. I'm 58 years old. I got on my first board when I was 35 years old. I ran our Merced County Holstein Club. I ran our state Holstein Association. I was for 9 years, I was part of San Joaquin, our dairymen's here in town. I now sit on the board for CDI, the second largest co-op in the nation. I'm one of 16 board members. I'm in my 9th year at that level. I also sit on the Select Sires Board, the second largest breeding outfit in the U.S., and I am now on the executive committee, which represents the Western United States. That's a little bit of credentials, but now why do I believe you should vote for me here on the school board? I am born and raised here in Los Banos. I was here in town when there was less than 9,000 students. 9,000 people, not 9,000 students. There were 9,000 people here when I was growing up. My mom and dad went to school here. My father-in-law went to school here. My wife, my children, 3 of my 4 grandchildren are going to school here. We've helped every youth group moving up from Pop Warner football to soccer to Little League baseball. We have tours at our dairy. We've been in business, myself and my wife, for 32 years now on our own. We give tours on the dairy. We used to have the pumpkin patch. If your child is 34 to 29 years old, odds are they came out in one of those buses and picked pumpkins at our patch. Now we give tours, and it's Charleston that takes advantage of some of the tours that we give out on the dairy. I am family-oriented. I believe in this community. It's time for me to continue to give back to the people that helped educate me, and I hope I can do that, and I hope you can see that I'm committed to this. I am here tonight. I'm not somewhere else, and I will continue to serve this community as long as you will appoint me to this position.
Andre.
I've been a longtime board member. I was mentioned a couple of times before. I've enjoyed serving the community. As in my role as a trustee, I've served as president of the board for three years, and it's been a positive experience for me. It's not been easy, but it's been a positive experience, and I think that the track record shows for anybody who chooses to really look at it is that we've really come a long way over the last period of time. We built schools. This community has built schools. We have entered into successful mitigation agreements with developers, as I mentioned before, to augment the bond money that you all are paying on your property taxes every year. Our API scores have climbed, and we're continuously challenging what's out there to make sure our students are really continuing to achieve. We weren't afraid of stepping into Common Core. We chose to jump into Common Core early, commit the resources, because we knew our district could do it. We have invested in our teachers, and we knew that we could do it. I think that I mentioned earlier, my passion is I have a passion for children. I've worked for the Children's Hospital for 20-some years, 26 or 27 years. I've volunteered as a 4-H leader. I teach basque dancing to kids in town, and I found that my skills really situate me best in roles like this, where I can help put teams together and to continuously improve systems for a better outcome, and that's our students. I have 2 children. My daughter graduated from the high school in May, and she's a freshman at Davis, and I've been very pleased with the outcome. So I would hope that you would continue to support me. I would continue to serve you very well, I think, as a board member, work very hard.
Marlene.
Well, diversity shouldn't be an issue in 2014, and I am not here because I'm African American. I am here because I love the children, I love the city, I love my home. My passion is to be on the board to help direct children in education. It's a civic duty that I think I would do very well at fulfilling. I live in Area 3, and I have a lot of community members and friends out there in Area 3, and I like to be a voice between Area 3 and the board. I can bring their concerns to the board. My community is predominantly Hispanic, and I think that they are not sure how to reach board members. They haven't had a lot of contact with board members, and I like to be that go-between that community and the board, just to share their views, share their vision. I'm only one person. I can only be one vote. I cannot make campaign promises. I can work with the committee very well. I have very good character. I've been a citizen of Los Banos since 1991. I've been employed at Memorial Hospital Los Banos since, I went to work there within the 2 weeks of moving to this town. I have also worked at DeVita Dialysis. I have made a lot of friends in this town. I love it. I'm going to stay here. I have no plans on relocating. I've raised 2 daughters here. I have basically been a single parent for the last 20 years. My daughter is 25 and 22. They both have gone through the school system here, and they are now off in college. One followed her mother's footsteps, which is nursing, and the other one went into liberal studies, and I love it both. I'm asking for your support. I would love to work alongside. I had no issues when I came and got involved. My goal was never to unseat anybody. It was absolutely to just come on and be a support.
I have a few closing thoughts. First of all, check to all you folks out there, I think probably folks in the audience do, those of you watching, check to see where your trustee area is. You have to look. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say I had to really look to find out which area I was in. And these maps are available. They're here. They're also available at the district office. If you call the district office, you can have one. Find out which area you're in, because then you'll know which of the, if it's a contested election, which of the 2 candidates you're voting for. So I would encourage you to do that. Secondly, I want to thank, I think they're still left, the students from Ms. April Lada's class for doing a great job of bringing the cards. I think we're in good hands in our future with young people like this who are dedicated to the political process. I also again want to thank the League of Women Voters, the people in the back room there who screened the questions. I thought the questions were very good. I think they were fair, they were honest. I appreciated the candidates' thoughtful answers. I want to remind, and also thanks to the Los Banos Enterprise for sponsoring this, I want to remind everyone that anyone who was unable to see tonight's forum, it will be available for viewing beginning Friday on the Los Banos Enterprise website. That's www.losbanosenterprise.com. So you can stream this whole forum. I want to encourage everyone to vote on November 4th. That's the main thing that we're doing. It's coming up faster than we think. And then finally, I'm really proud we did this all in 2 hours. In fact, we had 7 minutes to spare. That's a thanks to all of you for your cooperation. And I hope to see everybody back next Tuesday, October 7th at 7 p.m. for the Los Banos City Council's Candidates Night. Thank you and good night.
Very nice job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate all of you keeping me on my toes. That's our Rick. Oh, I should have thanked Rick, especially. Oh, turn this off.